receiver in college football.
Tua stands in. It's a beauty of a ball.
It's draft day, y'all. We'll have every pick live on ESPN, also available on NFL Network. And ABC's coverage focuses on the prospects' journey to the draft. Our first round coverage begins tonight, 8 Eastern. On that note, we welcome in the insider of all insiders, Adam Schefter. Adam, thank you so much for being with us this morning. What is the latest you're hearing about movement at the top of the draft?
Listen, it's always possible. We know that the Detroit Lions at number 3 would like to go back. The New York Giants at number 4 would like to go back. I think the key question here, the Dolphins at 5, the Chargers at 6. Both teams are thought to be interested in quarterbacks. And the question is, does one of them want to move up? And to date, the sense I've gotten is no. And basically, maybe the Lions or Giants asking price later in the day drops some. And if that's the case, then maybe one of these teams winds up coming up for a small price. But I don't think the Lions or the Giants are going to get the ransom that they would like to have at this particular point in time. So, again, there's a real chance that the top 5, 6 picks in the draft will stay just where they are. Although that's very unusual for a draft not to have any movement. But the key is the quarterbacks, and whether the Dolphins think the Chargers will come up or whether the Chargers value one of the quarterbacks enough to leapfrog the Dolphins because they think the Dolphins are going in a certain direction. But the issue is we don't know which quarterback the Dolphins want. We don't know which quarterback the Chargers want. But we do know that quarterbacks are in play at 5 and at 6.
Adam Schefter, why exactly are the Detroit Lions looking to move back, and what does this say about the level of confidence that they have in Matthew Stafford? I imagine they have more confidence in him than has been initially reported.
Well, I think they do have confidence in Matthew Stafford. I absolutely do believe that. I will be surprised if the Detroit Lions go for a quarterback. We never fully know until the draft happens, but that would surprise me. So if you're the Lions sitting at 3 and you can go back to 5 or 6, you're still going to be able to get a blue chip defensive talent at 5 or 6, the same player, Stephen A., that you probably would wind up getting at number 3. Because I think most people think the Lions would trade with one of those teams if it could get worked out, which, again, there's nothing close at this time. And that team coming up would take a quarterback. The Giants are not in the quarterback market. So, again, only one of those two teams, the Lions or the Giants, could move back because potentially only one of those teams, the Dolphins or Chargers, could come up. And that's even if they are willing to come up. As of this morning, that was not the case. Now, it could change as the course of the day goes on. We're sort of at the bewitching hour where people put their cards on the table, the moment of truth arrives, and we get to see what everybody's really thinking. You could play poker all you want, but in the end, you got to show your cards here, and so we'll know whether or not one of those teams, the Dolphins or Chargers, is uneasy enough that to sit where they are rather than move up. And again, to date, nothing close to happening.
Adam, the Patriots don't draft quarterbacks in the first round, especially not when the 6th rounder is the greatest of all time.
But even Max, there was no reason to, yes.
Right, but Brissett, Garoppolo, even when they draft a quarterback relatively, that's never in the first round. However, have you heard anything in terms of them really liking a guy like Tua, where if he were to start to fall, they would potentially trade up to get him?
See, here's my whole thing. I don't think Tua is getting past the top 5 or 6 picks. I just think between the Dolphins and Chargers, I don't know how it comes out. I just think Tua is too good and too much of a talent for both teams with a quarterback question to bypass him. I don't know where he's going to go, 5 or 6, but I do believe he's going to go 5 or 6 to one of those two teams. And so I don't think he's going to slide. Could Herbert slide? Potentially, if again, it falls a certain way, but I think those two quarterbacks are right in play, right with those two teams. Now, if there's an upset, if somebody likes Jordan Love, like the Dolphins are thought to have, and they decide to go there, or they decide to use a later pick on Jordan Love, and one of these quarterbacks starts to slide, then I think it gets interesting for a team like New England. I think there are other teams that would be positioned towards the back of the draft that could be in the quarterback market. You hear some talk about the Raiders drafting a quarterback somewhere this year. You hear talk about the Patriots potentially doing it, the Saints, the Packers. Again, We don't know which ones will actually do it. But I don't think Tua is going to slide. I just don't see him sliding past 5 and 6. The team's at 5 and 6.
Okay, interesting. And the Raiders already have 2 quarterbacks. Adam, I want to stay with New England for one more minute. What are you hearing about New England in the wide receiver position?
The wide receiver, a short time ago, the Patriots reached agreement on a 1-year deal with Marquise Lee. I'm in draft mode, Molly, so to transition to free agents there, caught me off guard for a moment. But essentially,
I apologize.
A player that the Jaguars released a short time ago, a former second-round draft pick from USC, the Patriots scoop him up. 1-year deal. Show me what you can do. A typical Patriot kind of deal, signing a talented guy who played very well when he was healthy in Jacksonville, now gets a new chance. We don't know who's going to be throwing him the football in New England, probably Jarrett Stidham, but the Patriots are not worried about that. They're not thinking about that right now. All we know is that they have an agreement in place on a 1-year deal with Marquise Lee, the former second-round draft pick from USC.
All right,
Marquise Lee was the Biletnikoff winner. On that same USC team, I was out there with Robert Woods. He was considered the guy with the most upside. That could work out very well for those guys.
Usually does,
New England
Max,
knows
right?
what they're doing. Adam, thank you so much. We'll be watching you tonight. First round of the draft starts at 8 Eastern right here on ESPN. Adam, we'll talk to you soon. When we come back here on First Take, we have comedian, actor Tracy Morgan. Season 3 of The Last OG is out on TBS with Commissioner Roger Goodell on GMA this morning. Obviously, we are all pumped for the draft. Always good to see our guy, Marcus Spears, here with us. Stephen A., I'll start with you first. Which team do you think is under the most pressure this evening?
Well, I think it's the Dallas Cowboys. I'm gonna look at them right now because you know what? Listen, look at the roster that you have. I mean, you've got Ezekiel Elliott. Can you hear me, Molly? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. You've got Ezekiel Elliott. You've got Amari Cooper. You just signed to $100 million. You still got DeMarcus Lawrence. You paid him. Okay. You paid Jalen Smith. You're not paying your quarterback. All right. And Jerry Jones is running out of time. The reality of the situation is that this is not Miami where you've got some weapons, but you're rebuilding. This is not, and you can look at Tampa and acquiring Tom Brady and all of that stuff. We get all of that. But the bottom line is when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, they're the ones that have underachieved year after year after year for the most part. And they've got to find a way to step up and get it done. I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys, and I'll be honest with you, Max and Pastor Spears. I won't deny it. You know what? You can come up with other solutions, other teams that might have more pressure than the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just having fun applying that pressure to the Dallas Cowboys because of their nauseating, disgusting fan base out there. I'm looking at the possibility of the Dallas Cowboys making some noise, and I'm thinking about all of the stuff that Dallas Cowboy fans are going to go through with their expectations, only to be found to end up miserable yet again. Anything that contributes to the misery of that disgusting, nauseating fan base is something I support. It's my personal feelings. It's my personal preference. I don't give a damn what anybody else says. It's about the misery of the Dallas Cowboy fan base. That is what I'm focused on with this answer.
There are a bunch of good answers here, and the Cowboys are not one of them, Stephen A. I would say the Miami Dolphins, and Marcus, you've been on this show talking about what the Dolphins have done in this offseason, but on top of that, they got 1 million draft picks, first-round picks, a boatload this year and next, and the way they finished the season, the way they went from laughingstock that seemed to quit early on, is this the worst team we've ever seen, to a 5-win team that beats the Patriots on the final week of the season in a must-win game for the Patriots, as it turned out. You know, do they want to buy? Yes or no? They didn't get the buy, and they lost in the first round, and now Tom Brady's gone. Like, that was a huge game for the Patriots, and Miami beat them. So they're poised. They're trending in the right direction. They have a coach who got them to buy in eventually. They have to get these picks right. It's been forever since Miami was good. And Miami, by the way, the Dolphins are a national team. There are some teams that ring bells nationally. And the Miami Dolphins, partly because it's an international, port city, and it's an awesome place, and also a lot because of Dan Marino. Marino was such a phenom that he created, and the Dolphins created, nationwide fans. They are a national team that I think flies under the radar in that respect, in a way. So the Dolphins are under tremendous pressure. I think the Giants are also under pressure. There are a lot of teams I would put as like top pressurized teams in that top group of 5 or 6. But the Giants are another one. That's my team. And whatever Gettleman wants to say, look, I hit on the quarterback. Everyone said that I was going to get wrong. Well, Saquon Barkley, you hit on the running back too, but you drafted him 2nd overall. You're not supposed to do that, really, right? And the Giants are still terrible. Now you got a new coach. You got a top pick. At a certain point, it can't just be, well, you can argue I hit on this pick. You got to put together a team that can win. So the Giants are also under real pressure here.
Did you wake up this morning, Stephen A., planning on getting on people's nerves with that just ridiculous Dallas Cowboys under the most pressure? You just woke up wanting to get on people's nerves this morning? Oh, we lost. Okay. Well, let me piggyback on what you just said, Max. It is absolutely the Miami Dolphins. Listen. We can take drafts from the beginning of the time to drafts right now. The teams that are under the most pressure are the teams that need franchise quarterbacks, because we hear it all year long. If you don't have a quarterback, you cannot win in this league. And look at what the Dolphins did to acquire these picks. Obviously, trading Mika Fitzpatrick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had to make moves. They had to make big moves in order to acquire these picks. And if you don't have that guy behind center, it is not going to happen for you. Here's another reason why they're under so much pressure. Who the hell do they take? Is it Justin Herbert because you're concerned about Tua's injury history and his durability? Or is it Tua because the upside is a landslide over what we think Justin Herbert's upside is? They are in I won't say a terrible situation. They are in one of the hardest situations that I can remember in drafts, by making a decision on a player that can either take your franchise to the highest of heights, which everybody believes Tua can by his talent, or they with Justin Herbert, where they may have a fan base that just feels like, hey man, we just settled because this was the next best thing to Tua, but because Tua injury. There are so many things and so many chips that the Miami Dolphins put on the line in order to be sitting in this position at 5 to change their franchise. They legit do not have a franchise quarterback on their roster. They are under the most pressure, and it's not even really close to anybody else. Everybody says the Chargers. Tyrod Taylor